Hello, Phil and Jules from Cyclefit here. We're going to do a little podcast vlog on the Open Mind, which is a brand new bike from the very innovative Open company in Switzerland, and we have a very fine example here at the back. And you might be asking yourself, what's the bike at the front got to do with the bike at the back? The bike at the front is a Pegoretti Marcello, which was custom made for us by our friends in Verona at Pegoretti. And we asked them for a COVID theme because at the time they were all sleeping in their factory at the beginning of lockdown, and to try and kind of dignify and honour that, we asked them to produce a COVID bike. Slightly more didactic than we expected, but nevertheless we love it, and it is a beautiful, iconic bike. What it has to do with the bike at the back is the fact that the classic Pegoretti steel frame was Gerard Vrooman's main influence when he designed the new Open Mind road bike. Did you know that, Jules?
I did know that, Philip, yes.
You only knew it because I told you. So, Open are better known for their inventing the whole gravel genre. We have a few examples around the shop here. So, and they totally disrupted the entire industry when they invented the gravel genre and came up with their classic Open Up. And for many years, we kept asking them, were they going to do a road bike? And they were very secretive about it and very evasive and dissembled. And so we kind of almost gave up asking, and all of a sudden, they suddenly came out with the fact they had done a road bike, and this was it. And essentially, Andy had asked Gerard, Andy and Gerard are Open, to design and build a classic, beautiful, comfortable road bike made from carbon fibre. So the disruptive company Open decided to about face and make a classic, beautiful, well-behaved road frame, and not something super aero 1x12, 13, which is what we were expecting. So it took us all by surprise. What can we say about it, Jules?
The Mind, what do we think about it? I've got to try and move this out of the way first, so we can have a proper look.
Because that really is extremely beautiful. If anyone's seen enough of the Pegoretti, I can never see too much of a Pegoretti personally, but yes, I understand that it might help. And there you can see the silhouette of the Mind. It really is not aero. I mean, they've gone out of their way to make a bike super comfortable and light and well-mannered rather than aero. Jules, you were going to say something?
I was going to say the word that we're thinking of is elegant for carbon.
Yeah, it is.
It's not about stiffness, it's not about aerodynamics. It's about the ride quality and the feeling of, there's a sort of a nuance with this bike. I've ridden this bike. It's a little bit too big for me, but it's very soft, very supple, and it does feel like steel. That's the main thing. So it's not one of those carbon bikes you ride down the road and it just roars at you. You can hear the noise and the banging and the cracking. It's a very elegant, very nuanced bike, and it's a lovely ride.
Yeah, agreed. And I have ridden it more than you because it does fit me. And if you look at some of the design features, the one that jumps out is the 25mm continuous seat tube. Two things. Firstly, we hate integrated seat masts, as does Gerard Vrooman, in fact.
And our mechanic.
We all are united in hating integrated seat masts. But Gerard's and Andy's reason to use one was not because they like the concept of a continuous seat mast, but because it adds comfort. And if you make it out of 25mm carbon, which is dramatically undersized, you get this kind of beautiful movement and flex, which is incredibly comfortable. And then, so if you think about the way that Open's gone around dialing in comfort compared to, for example, the Trek de Marne has taken a mechanical approach, a pivot and an elastomer and movement, which works. It works really, really well. And on the SLR is adjustable. Open's gone about face and said, no, we're not going to do that. Nothing is going to move other than the material itself. So what they've done in comparison to the Domane is create the same effect, but this bike is 7 kilograms with pedals, which for a modern disc frame is alarmingly light, isn't it?
Very, very light, yeah. They've shaved a lot off, and it's got very narrow tubes. The seat stays are very slim, chain stays are slim, because they're not looking to try and make this a stiff bike. They want, as odd as it seems, the carbon's flexing under the rider, and that's where the comparison can come to steel. I think it's quite unusual.
Yeah, and that's right. So the whole industry is going aero, stiff, aero. We're going to worship these two gods. And Andy and Gerard characteristically have gone, well, that's actually this. Why don't we worship other gods? Why don't we think about comfort and lightness? And that when you ride this bike, it does feel incredibly light and unbelievably comfortable. This one's got 30 millimeter Shorby Pro ones. 30 mil on those rims blows out to kind of 31, 32 millimeters, which is more than you need, isn't it? I mean, I was riding on cobbles today. It's probably part of this film. Unbelievably comfortable on cobbles. So yeah, I think they've achieved those things. What do you think about the colour, Jules? Where are you on the colour?
Midnight blue, yeah, gloss, better than matte black, definitely. And we often have a conversation at work here. What do we prefer, matte or gloss? And I think when the bikes come in, I think we're going towards gloss now because you can polish it, you can clean it. When you do clean it, it looks nice. Doesn't show fingerprints. And then the details under the forks here are really nice and subtle, nice and bright. And so far, it's only available in one colour. Is that right?
Well, it's funny you should say that. I'm glad you brought that up, Jules, because in fact it is available ready to paint. They've just brought it out ready to paint, so you can get it completely just a waxed carbon ready to paint. And I asked Andy last week. I said, well, if you get that ready to paint option, can you ride it like that? And he said, absolutely, you can. It's absolute. You can ride it exactly as it is. You'll probably save us about 100 grams, and you could just ride it with that kind of wax finish. It's absolutely fine to ride that for as long as you like. And then if you get bored of it, you could paint it afterwards. Doesn't save any money though, it's exactly the same price, but saves a bit of weight, and you can ride it in that form. The colour, do you think the colour is a bit masculine? Would you say that are Open telling us that this is a bike for slightly older males? I mean, it doesn't strike me as a particularly, or maybe I'm just being...
Well, I think it's quite, what was I going to say? It's quite sophisticated. It's not like it's fluorescent yellow. It hasn't gone down that route.
No.
But then if you look at the geometry as well, it's compared to their other frames, it's more upright and a little bit shorter, a little bit closer. So the front end is a bit more of a relaxed ride, and that will suit men of a certain age and women.
Well, in fact,
it's all going to depend on your fit, isn't it?
My first client who's going to buy this bike, Mary, so it really has appealed to her, and it is my wife's favourite colour is navy blue. So, I wonder though. Andy and Gerard are obviously men of a certain age. You and I are men of a certain age. It certainly does appeal to us, doesn't it, as a concept?
Yes, and I think one of the bikes we have had a lot of success with over the years is the Trek M.I.N.D, and it had just a Trek have got 3 geometry platforms: H1, H2, H3, or they did have. And we sold a lot of bikes to people in the H2 geometry, not too racy, not as relaxed as the Trek Domane, which was the endurance geometry. But this year, that geometry has changed. So the Trek M.I.N.D, which is a lightweight, all-day road bike, got a little bit more aero, is now is much more aggressive, and you've got to be a proper racing snake to ride it. So this bike here is giving you the best of both worlds. It's giving you a very comfortable position, and it's lightweight and it's comfortable, maybe even more comfortable than the old M.I.N.D. So this bike for us ticks a lot of boxes.
Do you think? I mean, because you rode in the TAP, got a gold medal on the old M.D., the first generation disc bike. I know you haven't spent as much time on this as I have, but do you think this is fractionally more compliant and comfortable than the Series 1 M.D. disc?
I thought the M.D. was very comfortable.
Yeah.
I thought the back end because it had skinny stays like this, it had nice, and that integrated seat mast, it did seat cap, so that did work really well actually.
Yeah.
But I find this does, the steering on this is just maybe a little bit more stable on this one.
Do you think, though, if you think about Open, its reputation, disruptive, a company that is just blatantly doing their own thing on their own agenda, not having their head turned by anybody else, do you think this bike is going to? Do you think this bike is going to be as revolutionary as the Up or the Upper or the Wide? Or does it need to be? Does it not need to be? Does it not need to fulfil that function? I
don't think it's going to change the course of bike design.
No. Nor does Andy and Gerald, by the way. They think the same thing.
Oh, that's right.
No, they said the same.
It offers you something that's a little bit... What we like about these bikes is you start with a frame and then you build up components as you want them, and we just talk to the customers and they say, I want envy bars and I want this and I want that and I want these type of tyres. So it takes us away from the stock Ultegra built bike or the dual race bike. Can I get 10% off? So it's more of a nice project, and I think building frames like this a little bit more individual, and I think people like that. Makes a big difference.
Yeah, you're not going to see many of these, are you? I mean, there's only 2 people in the company, well, 3 with Sebastian. You're not going to see many of these out there, are you? You know, they don't make many. I mean, you think about the Venn diagram of gravel and then road. I mean, Open have kind of, once again, there's that bit on the Venn diagram, there's a bit in the middle. And with the Open, with the Upper and the Up and the Wide, you know, there was a great big overlap. You know, you could ride it on the Up on the road, you could ride it off-road, you could ride it, you know. This one, it's a much tighter squeeze, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to Andy and he said, yeah, you can throw, he takes his off-road. He pops on 32mm cyclocross tyres and takes his off-road. So you can, but you probably won't, you know.
I mean, it looks so nice and shiny and clean, I probably wouldn't, because there's better bikes to do that on.
Yeah.
And if you did want a bike that did everything, did both, then you go for the Up or the Upper in that Open range, because you can do that with those bikes.
And to be fair, that's exactly what they say. I mean, Gerard's first statement about this bike was, I've designed a bike you don't need. I mean, he actually blatantly says that. I designed a bike that you don't need, but you might want, you know, because you could go and ride the Upper or the Up or even the Wide on the road. But then I did a 100-mile ride with you. You, I think, were on.
I was on my old steel frame.
Yeah, I was on the Wide with 25mm road tyres, and Jabig was on his Upper with road tyres. And I found it was great. I had a great day out, great ride. But you know, it wouldn't have been my first choice road bike for that ride, because it was pretty much all road. Whereas that would be right up there.
Well, that's what it's designed for, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you have those all-road bikes, they tend to be jack of all trades, or two trades.
Yeah.
So if you have something that's got nice tight fork and it's got close clearances, it's going to handle a bit better, and they're going to build that into the frame. That's sort of makes the difference. Did Andy talk to you about the steering and the geometry? And because they said they changed the geometry, haven't they, on the front end and things?
Yeah, it is subtly different. Yeah, it is subtly different, and this steers like a road bike. The Wide with 25mm road tyres doesn't steer as quickly as this, and I do like a bike that steers quite quickly. The other thing about the Wide is only being one bike. Yeah, you can ride it on the road, and yeah, you can do a 100-mile road ride, which we did. But
by the way, Phil's looking up at a Wide.
Oh yeah, I'm not looking
because the camera's haven't moved.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm looking up at the Wide. The thing with the Wide is, being a one-by, I found that the one-by thing riding on the road was that when you're riding a group of riders, the one-by is a little bit restricted.
Definitely,
You're always kind of between gears, so having a two-by is lovely. And one of the design influences behind the wide is one of the things that
The wide or the mind?
mind. Thank you, Jules. One of the guiding principles behind the mind was Gerard said we're going to have as little design as possible. We're not going to over design this and over engineer it. It's going to be quite a simple design, and I definitely think they've achieved that. One of the questions that everyone's got is how about two things with the integrated seat mast. How about flying with the bike in a box, and also how about if you sell the bike to somebody who's got slightly shorter or longer legs? What do you say about that? Don't fly, don't sell.
Two of those things. Well, you have to sell it to some. Well, with a bike, you'd sell it to someone who was about the right same size anyway. But you've got options. You can move it up and down 10, 15 mil on this shorter clamp, and then you get a longer clamp as well, so we can move it up and down a little bit.
Yeah.
So we've got options there.
Minus 15 on the new clamp that Opens just bought out. You can go plus or minus 15, which is quite a lot actually, isn't it?
And then for travelling, you'd have to look around and find a box that's going to fit it, I think. So that might be a bit of a challenge.
Well, I said it to Andy. He said that they've designed this so there is actually a box that this can go in, whether you can fly with the bike.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Did you say which one?
He did. But yeah.
Has he got it?
Yeah. Go on.
What about the Evok? Those Evok bags might fit it for the mountain bikes, that fit the mountain bikes. But
Yeah, that's what he said.
we'll have to look into that one.
Yeah. So, open mind. Love the name, love the bike,
Open to offers.
love the ride. We have a test bike if you want to try one. We have a medium and we have a large.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to try it, it might be a nice counterpoint to what you're already considering.
What I quite like about this, the way they sell this bike, it's not about riding, it's not about epic endurance, it's not about super aero, it's not about climbing up mountains really fast. It's just about going out and riding your bike, enjoying the feel of the road and the bike, and just having a good time. It's not claiming it's going to revolutionise anything or make you a better rider, and I think that's quite refreshing from these guys.
Yeah, but the thing about Andy and Gerard is that they're nothing if they're not completely and utterly honest and transparent on it. I mean, they're bluntly, and that's exactly what they say. That it really is a very simple proposition. It's a beautiful riding bike you're probably going to quite like. They're not saying any more than that.
True.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Well, that's the end of our podcast stroke vlog. This is all quite new to us and we're not really sure what we are doing. But if you've enjoyed it, we'll be making more of these and talk about more of our bikes. And if you've got any questions about the Mind or any of our services, just please give us a bell. Thanks very much for listening.